Today on Here for the Right Reasons, Caitlin Bristow reveals her thoughts on Tino getting insecure about the group dates.
If you're in your impaired way of thinking and you're being insecure and you're seeing this as like wrong, like she's doing this with these other guys, why is this happening? You're only hurting yourself.
Plus, Nick Viall talks why he wanted to host The Bachelor.
At the end of the day, I just wanted to sit down with them and just have a conversation about the opportunity. I was pretty realistic about, how I thought that would play out.
Plus, Nate Mitchell's dating drama, Peter Weber and Kelley Flanagan spotted together, and Jordan Kimball slams Nick Viall.
I would not go taking advice continually from Mr. Nick Viall is never going to make it down the aisle.
Plus, we recap the latest in Gabby and Rachel's journey to find love. We've got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons. Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly Deputy Editor Sarah Heron. And Sarah, we are 1 week away from hometowns. I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
I don't know how I feel about watching 7 hometowns. I'm a little like, how am I going to follow whose parents are whose?
That is true.
But kind of wild. Top 3 for Gabby, top 4 for Rachel. Feels like yesterday we were just, watching them fight over which guys.
I know. This is going by so fast. So we have a lot to break down, a lot of news to get to as well. But before we get to all that, what was everybody talking about last week?
Yes, this was Ashley in the show, commenting on the show last week. She said, I agree that we should see the same format with the men. I like the 2-lead dynamic. I think it's very interesting to see how they interact with each other.
Interesting. I wonder if they will do a 2-lead with the men. I feel like they kind of have to even it out a little bit. It would be kind of strange if they don't.
I mean, they got to make these decisions soon. It's usually the end of August and then early September into production. So we should know sooner rather than later. And I don't know. I think the ratings are decent. I think they just got to find the right 2 guys.
Definitely. And then Shannon says, I feel like we hardly have gotten to know who anyone is. Just too much going on to be good TV. So it seems like a lot of people are mixed. They either love this format, hate this format. It is nice to see a bit of a change. I feel like they had to kind of switch things up a little bit. But yeah,
I agree. It does definitely feel fast now that the numbers are dwindling when you look at it as 3 and 4 versus like 7.
Yeah.
But there's always guys who sneak through that you're kind of like, didn't know you'd be here in like a top 7 kind of thing. So I think maybe it's also just easy to criticize what's in front of us.
Exactly. Very true. All right. Well, let's get into our news of the weekend. This was something that I don't think anybody expected. Peter Weber and Kelley Flanagan were spotted together in Chicago. Us Weekly confirmed that the former Bachelor and Kelley, they attended a Chicago Cubs game together, watching the hometown beat the Nationals. So strange. I mean, they had a very, very messy split. They dated for nearly 1 year after his season of The Bachelor. They split up on New Year's Eve in 2020 before rekindling things in early 2021, broke up again that February. And they have said in multiple interviews that it seemed like there was a lot of bad blood between them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a plot twist for a few reasons. Kelley was pretty candid and she picked and chose kind of where she spoke. I know I spoke to her a little bit about the breakup and she would kind of talk about these deal breakers. And she just recently did an interview, I think in May, with Mike and Brian, in which she kind of hinted that she didn't view Peter as like husband material. So if that is still the case, maybe they were lonely. Maybe they are just friends. The only reason I think there could be something happening here is I know we did reach out to both Kelley and Peter. Neither of them wanted to comment. And I feel like if this was strictly platonic, they would have just nipped it in the butt. I wonder how Barb feels about it.
That's what I was just thinking. But like, if they're figuring things out, don't go to a Cubs game. Like, you want to be seen if you're going to a Cubs game. So they knew that people were going to see them out and about. So that's kind of strange to me too.
I mean, we know Peter's a pilot. He travels a lot. Kelley still lives in Chicago. Maybe he was just in town. She had tickets, didn't want to give him up. He had tickets. Maybe it's innocent. I think, as we know, these two have a hard time staying home if they are out and about back in our COVID days. So if there's something to be said for this, we will probably see them again soon. Otherwise, we might have to wait a couple months to finally get the podcast reveal. But Peter does have a podcast too, so we gotta listen.
We gotta listen up. Well, maybe he's now husband. Maybe he changed his ways. Maybe he matured a little bit, and maybe he's husband material now.
He gave away his Pokemon cards.
Yes, yes. Something tells me he probably didn't do that.
Yeah, probably not. Someone who is husband material, as well as Adams. Him and Sarah will be getting married soon. But of course, we just want to know what's going on with BIP. He was on Nick Viall's Viall Files, and he revealed that ABC ordered 13 more hours than we have in the past. So that's like 6 more episodes, depending on how they cut it up. Our our shoot schedule didn't get longer. I just think that all the things in the past that would have been left on the cutting room floor will now be in the show. So I'm excited for that. So that's kind of an interesting way to look at things. He also said that he thinks there will be more footage of the contestants, and explained that this experience is unique because, quote, this is different from years past because usually we would start filming halfway through the season of The Bachelor while it's airing. So I would watch while it's filming and I could get a grasp of these guys. This is different because I went and filmed an entire season with a bunch of guys that I didn't know. And I really went in there with my eyes unclouded and had no bias at all. He also said there'll be a lot of crying, sweating, yelling into the ocean, and some love and beautiful stories in the end. So sounds like another classic season of BIP.
I forget that it's like happening in a couple weeks that that BIP is coming back, and I feel like I'm surprised that we haven't gotten cast announcements yet. But I'm sure it's around the corner, maybe during Men Tell All, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think there's probably a decent amount of Gabby and Rachel's guys who headed right there, and maybe because they haven't been spoiled, they're trying to keep it under wraps for a little bit longer. But I would imagine that that's probably part of the reason that some of the guys are from that season. But I'm excited. BIP is always a journey. We also know that ABC, from everything I heard, is kind of mixing up a little bit. There might be a little more of like a Love Island feel where they're going to try to test these people a little bit more, which might also be why there was more hours ordered, because there's just like more to film. And as a new Love Island convert, I would be very interested in shaking things up a little bit.
I got to get into Love Island. Everybody's obsessed.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. All right. Well, Jordan Kimball publicly slammed Nick Viall. It's like another week, another Bachelor feud. Like everywhere, always in feuds with the people of Bachelor Nation. But he is known for frequently doling out some relationship tips. Jordan is not here for it. Took to TikTok and said this. Take a look.
Oh, and one more thing. End of rant. I've actually got a weed eat right after this. But I would not go taking advice continually from Mr. Nick Viall is never going to make it down the aisle. Dude's never going to make it down the aisle. Stop taking dating advice from him. Peter Pan has never had a better example of who to follow. So,
well, we know that Nick is writing a book, an advice book, which is set to be released in October. And his, Jordan doesn't think that he should be the one giving out marriage advice since he doesn't think he's marriage material. But Nick has been dating Natalie Joy since late 2020. So he is in a serious relationship. But what do you think about this unexpected feud?
Well, I know Jordan decently well, and he loves to stir the pot just when the time is right, and I don't fault him for it. But Nick, at the same time, I get the criticism of certain things. Interviewed him a million times too, and I think that you got to give the props to staying relevant in some sense, with turning his podcast and the advice and whatever as his brand. Like, that's impressive for, people who we see come in and out of this all the time. Is it kind of funny that, he was on the show 4 times and didn't end up with any people and he gives relationship advice? Yes, I think that's an easy shot, and I'm sure he gets it all the time.
I'm sure he does too.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, a lot of drama with Nate recently.
Yes, I mean, speaking of someone who might need relationship advice, and this current season, Nate Mitchell, who we did say goodbye to on this episode, but he, before that, addressed allegations that he dated 2 women at the same time without their knowledge before appearing on the ABC series. When someone commented, "Why are you playing girls?" he responded, "There's 2 sides to every story. Wish you the best." This social media interaction came after Reality Steve released a podcast episode with allegations of infidelity on Nate's part. He also detailed his correspondence with one of the women named Kelsey, who says she dated Nate from 2020 to 2021, and said, quote, "I cried for a guy who kept his kid a secret from me for 1.5 years while we were dating, and I found out on reality TV." In an effort to further prove the legitimacy of their relationship, she did provide Reality Steve with a collection of photos of them together. It was very lengthy DMs. He also posted screenshots of the direct messages between Kelsey and this other woman named Laurie, who claimed to be romantically involved with Nate at the same time when he apparently tried to be exclusive with Kelsey. Messy. What do you think?
Messy, so messy. Like, it's so hard because you fall in love with him on screen. And, I think if this drama didn't happen, he would definitely be a clear front runner for The Bachelor. But I don't know, you can't ignore these messy situations, especially if you're keeping a kid a secret for a year and a half. And that was one of the first things he said while he was on the show. So it's weird that he would be so upfront about it on TV, but behind closed doors, he's keeping his kid a secret, which is weird to me, if that's true.
Right. I think what's interesting here, and always these allegations, it's always so hard to navigate, and he can only say so much. And I'm sure they're going to talk about it at the Met Gala now that we know that will be there, since he, isn't in the running as a finalist anymore. One, Mike Fleiss, the creator of the show, has tweeted a lot of cryptic things about like, don't believe everything you hear and we trust people. And which kind of makes me think either one, he's stirring the pot like he does, or two, there have been discussions about, they loved the feedback of Nate initially. I remember when we were talking about it, we haven't had, Jason Mesnick, Emily Maynard, those were such great seasons, and they were single parents, and it's been a minute since we've kind of had a contender in that sense. The other devil's advocate side of it is this girl, they weren't exclusive and they were casually seeing each other, and he doesn't, introduce people to his daughter unless he feels it necessary to not bring her up for 1.5 years. Definitely a weird red flag if that's true. Is she just, had the screenshots that made things look right but left out the other ones? Who knows? It's hard. I know Nate is friends with Dustin and Peter. Him and Dustin have known each other since the 8th grade. So that's kind of an interesting layer. And I'm curious to see what they have to say, because I know they were going to defend him when they had the chance. So I don't know. This is kind of a weird one. And I definitely think that if they did pick Nate to be the Bachelor, at least his first round of press would be having to justify and respond to these things. And that's kind of a risk for the network in general, whether it's true or not, to kind of have that stigma. The same way everything about Clayton for the first month of his season was just like, why are you the Bachelor? Until he did something worse, which was, the 3 L-bombs. So, I mean, you never know what this network is going to do. I feel like every time I think I know, they throw something at me.
They always throw a curveball. But I think you're right, though, too. Like, I think he'll probably be like, I didn't want to introduce my daughter to somebody that I wasn't very serious about. But yes, a year and a half is a very long time to keep that a secret. So I don't know about that one. But all right, let's get into our Bachelor Nation talk. And I know that you had a great conversation with Caitlin last week.
Yes, Caitlin and I recapped last week's episode, but of course we're talking about what we knew what was going to happen this week with Tino based on the teaser. And I thought she had great insight about group dates in general and kind of front runners at this point and how they handle it. So here's what she had to say about Tino.
It's so hard because if you can think your healthy way of thinking and not in an impaired way of thinking is what I always say. If you're in your impaired way of thinking and you're being insecure and you're seeing this as like wrong, like she's doing this with these other guys, why is this happening? You're only hurting yourself. If you can think of it through like a healthy lens and say like, I'm on The Bachelorette, this sucks. This is really hard to watch. And that's because I care so much about this person. And I can only sit back and let her make her own decisions. Because at the end of the day, if those decisions lead to her realizing how great of a guy I am, we're going to be really happy. And so that's extremely challenging to do. Nobody wants to see the person that they're falling in love with making out with other guys, having feelings for other guys, meeting other people's families. It's so unnatural and it's really challenging.
I think Sean had a little bit of that balance on your season where he might have gone the wrong way a few times.
100%. I wanted so many times to just be like, if I choose you, and one, it's up to you too. You're choosing me as well. You don't have to choose me just because I'm choosing you. We should want to choose each other. But at the end of this, if I'm choosing you, it's because I genuinely want to be with you forever out of anyone. So take that for what it is.
Remember that. Yeah.
I mean, Caitlin knows she's been through it all.
Yeah, I really think Tino gives me Sean Booth vibes. Yeah. I think he's all in early, doesn't know how to handle being all in so early. And we can only hope that if Rachel does something Tino doesn't quote approve of, the same way Caitlin with Nick, I know that like was kind of a cloud over their relationship for a really long time that she admitted later. So if there's anything like that, hopefully Tino lets it go because that usually is the only way to find success in that. If she's with Tino, I don't know. I'm literally just assuming he wins because I just can't imagine anything else.
I can't imagine anything else, even though I did like Zach a lot this week, but I still think that like ever since Tino got out of the limo, it was game over.
I really think so too. And I think Zach's a great guy. And I think she's going to be really emotional about saying goodbye to Zach and Avon and even Tyler. Like she's got a solid group, but I think the way she looks at Tino, the way she kisses Tino, everything about Tino and even his reactions to being so like distraught and like the way he was talking to the producer with that red wine in his hand, it was like, oh boy, like he is all in.
He is all in.
I don't know.
All in. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to speaking of Nick. We've talked about Nick a lot this episode.
Again, you got to give the guy props for being relevant.
Seriously. Well, here's a little bit more from my chat with Nick and Ben Higgins. His thoughts on Jesse as a host and why he wanted to throw his name into the ring about hosting the show. Take a look. Nick, you said in your New York Times piece that you did pitch yourself to replace Chris Harrison. How far did you get along in that process? And what are your thoughts on Jesse Palmer? Do you think he's doing a good job?
I think Jesse's doing an excellent job. I've enjoyed getting to know Jesse. He's really charming, and I just really have enjoyed him as the host. Yeah, I'm going to kind of keep the details more private, but it was, I'm thankful for the relationships I have with ABC and Warner Brothers. And, at the end of the day, I just wanted to sit down with them and just have a conversation about the opportunity. I was pretty realistic about, how I thought that would play out. But I just thought it was important to have that conversation. I'm just kind of someone who likes to throw my hat in the ring for things that I believe in myself. But that all said, I think Jesse's definitely the right person for the job, and I think he's been doing an excellent job. Definitely. Ben, did you throw your hat in the ring as well?
Probably my own household. Like I told my wife, it'd be cool if they called. I miss those opportunities. I've been really focused. I've been very outspoken that I want to be the host of the Senior Bachelor show. I think that's my sweet spot. I don't know how I do as the host, and I agree with Nick. I think Jesse's doing a great job. But no, not like formally. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see Nick as the host of the show. I think Jesse is doing a good job, but who knows? Yeah, I think he's doing fine with his bio files.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nick has made a brand for himself for having opinions, and like the Bachelor host isn't supposed to have opinions. Really, they're supposed to be supportive. Not saying he wouldn't be supportive, but I think it would maybe turn in a little bit too much of analyzing things versus we see Jesse Palmer pop in and out real quick, drop bombs that have no explanation, which we'll get into, and stuff like that. So I think that I understand why they didn't give him the job, but I understand why he tried too.
No, I would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's break down this week's episode. And like we said, a lot to get to. We kind of spoke about the Gabby and Nate breakup, but she was very emotional about this. This is something that if he did not have a kid and she didn't, not ready to be a mom, I think he would definitely be final two.
Yeah. I mean, I think people can say what they want about Gabby, good or bad, but I think this showed so much about her character. The fact that she used a one-on-one date to do this. She could have gone to his room at a different time and kind of done it more abruptly. She wanted maybe to give it that one last shot and also make it him to know that this isn't something she's doing on a whim. And she was very emotional. And I think there's, she's been candid about kind of working through stuff with her mom, but maybe if she does decide to be a mom, there's clearly a little bit more work to be done, which she seems open to do. And it takes, strength and courage for her to look at it and be like, there's just no way. And it's sad. And I like that he was, I guess whatever we know about Nate now, at least in the moment, it felt like he said all the right things. You're going to be a great mom one day. Make sure you pick someone who chooses you. He didn't get angry with her. He didn't try to fight. And it really was very, it's crazy because I saw a lot of people tweeting about this being the saddest breakup, whatever. But then there's a lot of people who were can't get into Nate anymore because of these text messages. So it's kind of interesting because I feel if not, people really were all in on these two.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If this whole text message situation didn't come about, like we said, I think he would definitely be in a front runner for The Bachelor after this. But I thought he handled it really well. And who knows what he'll have to say on Men Tell All, because I'm sure he'll explain himself. But it was a really sad breakup. And you could tell just how much she really does care for him or did care for him at the time. But then she went on to have this erotic group date, which I'm just come on, really?
Albuquerque, asbestos,
pumpkin,
weird safe words, weird date. I mean, I did see one tweet that made me laugh. It's this is the show that used to pretend no one was sleeping together in the fantasy suites. And now we're just full on licking whipped cream off each other with a dominatrix hosting a date. So I guess that's good. Sex positive. But a very interesting contrast to Rachel's cheese competition.
Date, I know. Poor Rachel's dates, everything has been very vanilla this season, and Gabby gets all the steamy stuff.
But Rachel was smiling all day, all week. But this was Rachel's first episode in weeks that she didn't have any drama, and Gabby had not only the very dramatic Nate breakup, but then the second half of her date being taken away from her because Logan inexplicably was the only one to have COVID when they were all like rolling around together just moments earlier.
Right. And the only one that like isolated, like nobody like went back to their rooms. They just continued the party. They saw each other the next day for the, I mean, who knows what the timeline is, but then saw each other all for the rose ceremony. The whole thing just felt very odd to me. And what is also so strange is that I think in like a bunch of teasers leading up to this episode, we saw Logan and Jesse having a conversation, right?
Yeah, I rewatched it in the teaser for this episode and in like the whole super tease. Jesse says to him, like, you have to pack your bags. Gabby's distraught. And he's kind of like, we have a situation, and they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
Like it looks, I mean, I know they can do a lot of crazy things with editing, but it seems pretty clearly that they're talking to each other. So if he had COVID, why would he like be that close to him? And it's just, it's very confusing. Maybe that happened earlier in the season because of the thing. Maybe it was related to the Gabby Rachel switch from a few weeks ago, and they were using it to hype it up because COVID is kind of a boring drama, as Jesse called it, a situation to the guys. Why didn't he tell the guys? Why didn't they write like 3 days later if they did wait? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And this kind of leads into your social media moment of the week when Logan, you know, took to social media to explain everything, but also explain nothing.
Yeah, he didn't address at all the COVID part of it. And I guess the point of this statement was more to reflect overall because he got some heat for like the Gabby Rachel switch. Yeah. But he wrote, this year I decided to go on a reality dating show. I figured it was something new. It was an adventure, but I came out on the other side with much more than an experience. I came out with real feelings, strong emotions, lessons learned, and a lot to be grateful for. He went on to thank Gabby and Rachel, the whole thing. But the interesting part was watching myself on Monday nights gave me a different perspective. I will always be someone who will steer with their heart, whether it is popular or not. But in the future, I want to lead with intention and pursue with purpose. I'm ready to bring those lessons back into my life. I have struggled with mental health since I was 12 years old. And this process was more difficult than I ever thought possible. Destructive thoughts and constant doubt are hurdles that I think everyone relates to at some point, but not everyone talks about. I want to be transparent. I want to be a safe place for others. Acknowledging my mental health and how it affects those around me will be a priority in my life moving forward. It wasn't all roses, but I'm grateful for it all.
So, I mean, I would never say that somebody didn't have COVID, but did you leave because of mental health reasons or did you leave because of COVID?
Right. It's quite confusing. Maybe he just thought that like people cared more about that aspect of it. And like the COVID part was just like, oh, it is what it is. But to not even like acknowledge an unexpected departure after putting myself out there to make the switch, like it feels like there's so much more there. And then I saw some people being like, is it like a HIPAA violation for Jesse Palmer to tell the guys? It's like, well, he just told America.
Right. That's true. And then also if like Gabby felt so strongly for him, like why couldn't he stay in the competition? Like why couldn't he just have isolated himself for like 10 days? Then she goes to his hometown if she felt so strong. It's just like very abrupt. She's just like, he can no longer be here with us. Like,
I mean, I guess like it's a huge thing because they're clearly this production moved pretty quickly. And like if there's a lot of hometown dates to be done. In total theory, though, if she really wanted him to, she could travel to the other 3.
Right.
But maybe like she said like it's not worth it to me.
Maybe
I saw people joking like Zoom cocktail parties.
Right, I saw that, but it's like, what if like Tino got COVID? She's not going to send Tino home because Tino is going to the end. Like if
Tino got COVID, Rachel would say, isolate me and Tino together. We're going to fight through COVID. We'll make you a little video diary, and Gabby can take the boat over. The rest of the boat will sit in the quarters together.
Yeah, so this whole thing just doesn't really make any sense. And then he posted a video of an interview that he did with ABC, seemingly from the Men Tell All, basically being like, there was like 2 weeks where I never even got to talk to Gabby and Rachel.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need a timeline. We need more of an explanation about what went on with Logan.
Interesting for them to even release that too, because the Men Tell All did tape at the end of last week, but they usually keep all that stuff pretty under lock. It was an official ABC like red carpet account, so I understand he was eliminated, but like, I don't know. Everything about this is strange, and I wonder if they're just going to ignore it, and this is going to be one of those conspiracy theories, or if we're going to get like a deleted scene. I remember when for Michelle's season, there was all that stuff about like Nate being accused of being an actor, and I did try to ask them about it in their like postseason press, and they kind of just were like, we can't answer that. So I assume if anyone has the opportunity to ask them about it, it would be the same kind of thing about this promo, but maybe in a couple of years we'll find out whether Logan really had COVID.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. My social media post went to Becca Kufrin just to lighten it up a little bit. She posted a Tommy appreciation post because P's put out countless hours and energy building their dream home, all while keeping her sane. She said, "I love you to the moon and back. Thanks for being born. I'm so happy Minnow and I found you." Like, they are just so in love, so beautiful, and like building their perfect life together.
It's just so true. These are the facts. They're perfect for each other.
Yeah.
Like, literally, who knew?
Who would have thought? But Paradise does work for people, and I can't wait to see who is going to be on the show this season. It's going to be so good. But Sarah, in the meantime, who is on the podcast this week?
Okay, so Ivan and Damar, both from Tayshia / Claire, never forget, season of The Bachelorette. I had Ivan at the beginning of the summer, just talking about his experience, which was a great episode because he made it really far and he knows what hometown's like. But now they have a podcast together. We're recapping. He got some hot water for calling Rachel a walking red flag. So can't wait to dive into that and so much more.
So much more. Well, definitely make sure to take a listen. Keep watching every single Tuesday. Keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.